I used to think that money discipline was some kind of rare personality trait that you were either born with or you weren't. I looked at people who had maxed out retirement accounts and zero credit card debt as if they were some different species of human being. In my mind, I was just a spender, and that was my identity. I would get a paycheck, feel that temporary rush of adrenaline, and immediately start thinking about what I could buy to reward myself for surviving another 2 weeks of work. It was a toxic cycle of instant gratification followed by 2 weeks of peanut butter sandwiches and anxiety. But what I eventually realized is that discipline is not an innate gift. It is a muscle that you build through repetitive, sometimes boring, daily actions. I had to stop waiting for motivation to strike and start building a system that made discipline the path of least resistance. The first step in my journey was a brutal financial detox. I decided to stop all non-essential spending for 30 days. No dining out, no new clothes, no random gadgets. This wasn't about saving a massive amount of money in a month. It was about breaking the chemical addiction to the buy now button. I had to prove to myself that I could say no to my impulses and still be okay. During that month, I felt the itch to spend constantly. Every time I saw an ad or felt a little bit of stress, my brain's first instinct was to go shopping. By forcing myself to wait, I realized that the urge to spend is like a wave. It builds up, it feels overwhelming, but if you just stand still, it eventually crashes and recedes. Learning to ride the wave was the foundation of my discipline. I also started the habit of delayed gratification journaling. Whenever I wanted something that cost more than $50, I had to write it down in a notebook with the date. I told myself I could buy it, but only after waiting 30 full days. Most of the time, when I look back at that list a month later, I couldn't even remember why I wanted half of the items. This habit taught me the difference between a true desire and a fleeting impulse. It gave me back the power of choice. In America, we are constantly bombarded with messages telling us that we need everything right now. Building discipline is an act of rebellion against that culture. It's about deciding that your long-term peace is more valuable than a short-term dopamine hit. I started to see my bank account not as a fun money fund, but as a scoreboard for my self-control. Every dollar I didn't spend was a win for my future self. This shift in perspective was the hardest part, but it was also the most necessary. You cannot build a skyscraper on a foundation of sand, and you cannot build wealth on a foundation of impulsive behavior. I had to get serious. I had to get disciplined. And I had to start exactly where I was, with all my flaws and my bad habits, and commit to being just 1% better every single day. The second step in building my money discipline was the automation of virtue. I realized that if I had to make a conscious decision to save money every single month, I was eventually going to fail. Decision fatigue is real, and by the end of a long workday, my willpower is at an all-time low. So I took the decision-making out of my own hands. I set up a system where a portion of my paycheck was automatically diverted into a separate high-yield savings account and a brokerage account before I even saw the balance in my checking account. This is the pay-yourself-first principle, but on autopilot. It's much easier to be disciplined when the money isn't even there to be spent. I adjusted my lifestyle to fit whatever was left over. It's amazing how quickly the human brain adapts to a lower spending limit when it has no other choice. This is what I call constructive constraint. By limiting my available cash, I forced myself to become more creative with my spending. I started looking for free hobbies, cooking at home more often, and finding joy in things that didn't have a price tag. This habit also helped me stop lifestyle creep. Whenever I got a raise or a bonus at work, I immediately increased my automated transfers by that same amount. I never let my standard of living rise just because my income rose. I kept my expenses at the same level while my wealth began to grow at an accelerated rate. In America, the middle class trap is that as soon as someone makes more money, they buy a bigger house or a flashier car, which keeps them stuck on the hamster wheel forever. Discipline is the only thing that allows you to step off that wheel. I also started the cash only for chaos habit. For the categories where I was most likely to lose control, like entertainment and dining out, I switched entirely to physical cash. There is a psychological pain of paying that exists with cash but is completely absent with a credit card. When I had to physically hand over a $50 bill for a meal, I felt the weight of that decision. It made me a much more conscious consumer. I started asking myself if the experience was really worth the hours of work it took to earn that cash. Usually the answer was no. This physical feedback loop rewired my brain's relationship with money. I stopped seeing it as just numbers on a screen and started seeing it as a representation of my time and energy. This is a crucial step in the discipline process. You have to make the abstract feel real. You have to feel the cost of your choices in your gut. Once you develop that internal radar, you don't need a complicated budget anymore. You just have an intuitive sense of what is worth it and what isn't. You become a guardian of your own resources. You stop being a target for marketers and start being a strategist for your own life. This level of discipline is incredibly rare, but it is the secret weapon of everyone who has ever achieved true financial independence. It's about being the boss of your impulses. The third step was Mastering the micro decision. We often think that financial discipline is about the big choices like buying a house or a car. But the reality is that wealth is built or destroyed in the thousands of tiny decisions we make every week. It's the $5 coffee, the $10 lunch, the $3 app upgrade. These are the micro leaks that sink the ship. I started a habit called the 3-second pause. Whenever I was about to tap my phone or swipe my card, I would pause for exactly 3 seconds and ask myself, is this a need, a want, or a habit? A lot of my spending was just unconscious habit. I was buying things simply because I always bought them, not because I actually wanted them. By creating that tiny window of awareness, I was able to intercept those bad habits before they cost me money. I also adopted the maintenance habit. I realized that I was spending a lot of money replacing things that I hadn't taken care of. I started taking pride in maintaining what I already owned. My car, my clothes, my electronics. I learned how to do basic repairs and how to keep things in top condition. This shifted my mindset from a consumer to an owner. A consumer always wants the next new thing. An owner values and preserves what they already have. This habit alone saved me thousands of dollars a year in replacement costs and gave me a sense of gratitude for my possessions. I stopped looking at what I lacked and started looking at the value I already had. This is the ultimate discipline shortcut. When you are content with what you have, the urge to buy disappears. In America, we are taught that newer is better, but discipline tells us that functional is sufficient. I also started the weekly financial review. Every Sunday morning, I spend 15 minutes looking at my transactions from the past 7 days. I don't do this to shame myself, I do it to calibrate. If I see that I spent too much on groceries, I don't beat myself up. I just plan to be more careful the following week. This constant feedback loop keeps the discipline muscle engaged. It's like a pilot making small course corrections throughout a flight. If you only check your map once a month, you can end up hundreds of miles off course. But if you check it every week, you stay on the path to your destination. This habit removed the fear of the unknown from my life. I no longer dreaded looking at my bank account because I already knew exactly what was in there. I was in total alignment with my numbers. This clarity is the enemy of anxiety. When you have the discipline to look at the truth every week, the truth becomes your ally. You stop guessing and start knowing. You move from a state of hope to a state of certainty. You aren't just hoping you'll have enough money at the end of the month. You are making sure of it through your weekly actions. This is the hallmark of a disciplined person. They don't leave their future to chance. They manage it with precision and care. They understand that the small things are the big things. Every micro decision is a vote for the person you want to become. The fourth step in building my money discipline was reframing the sacrifice. For a long time, I looked at saving and investing as a form of suffering. I felt like I was giving up my life today so I could have a life in the future. This made discipline feel like a chore, and chores are easy to quit. I had to change the narrative. I started telling myself that I wasn't giving up a dinner out. I was buying my freedom. I wasn't sacrificing a new car. I was investing in my peace of mind. Every dollar I saved was a freedom unit that allowed me to say no to things I didn't want to do and yes to things I did. This shift from deprivation to empowerment made discipline feel like a privilege. I started getting a bigger rush from seeing my investment balance grow than I ever did from buying a new pair of shoes. I was addicted to progress instead of addicted to consumption. This is the psychological tipping point where discipline becomes effortless. Once you see the tangible results of your self-control, you don't want to go back to your old ways. I also started the value-based spending habit. I sat down and identified the top 3 things that actually bring me genuine happiness. For me, it was travel, high-quality food, and learning. I gave myself permission to spend generously on those 3 things, but only if I was ruthless about cutting everything else. I stopped spending on the middle ground, the stuff that is okay but doesn't really matter. I stopped buying filler clothes, filler entertainment, and filler household items. This allowed me to live a high-quality life while still saving a massive percentage of my income. Discipline isn't about being a miser. It's about being an essentialist. It's about cutting away the noise so you can focus on the music. In America, we are encouraged to be generalist spenders, to spend a little bit on absolutely everything. That leads to a life of clutter and a bank account of zero. By specializing my spending, I felt richer while spending less overall. I also adopted the internal validation habit. I stopped looking for attaboys from my friends or family for the things I bought. I realized that the only person I needed to impress was the person looking back at me in the mirror. When you stop caring about the social scorecard, your discipline skyrockets. You don't feel the need to buy the expensive round of drinks or the trendy brand just to fit in. You are comfortable in your own skin and your own financial plan. You have quiet confidence. This is the ultimate form of discipline because it's immune to peer pressure. You are the captain of your own ship and you are steering toward a destination that most people can't even see. You are playing a different game than everyone else. While they are playing who can look the best, you are playing who can be the freest. When the goals are different, the rules are different. Your discipline is the bridge between your current reality and your ultimate vision. It's the daily work that turns a dream into a legacy. You start to realize that the most expensive thing you can buy is your own time, and you are finally willing to pay the price. The final step in building better money discipline was forgiveness and persistence. I had to accept that I was going to fail sometimes. There were days when I would get stressed and blow my budget on something stupid. There were months when an unexpected expense would throw my whole system into chaos. In the past, these failures would be an excuse to give up entirely. I would think, well, I already ruined my budget, I might as well spend the rest. This is called the what the heck effect, and it's a total discipline killer. I had to learn to fail fast and reset immediately. If I made a mistake at 2 p.m., I didn't wait until Monday to start over. I started over at 2:01 p.m. I treated every decision as an isolated event. One bad choice doesn't make you a bad person, it just makes you a human who made a mistake. The key to long-term discipline is self-compassion combined with unwavering persistence. You have to be kind to yourself so you don't get stuck in a shame spiral, but you have to be tough enough to get back on the horse every single time. I also started the future self-consultation habit. Whenever I was facing a big decision, I would close my eyes and imagine my 65-year-old self sitting in the room with me. I would ask them, does this purchase help us get to where we want to be, or does it set us back? It's very hard to make a poor financial choice when you are looking your future self in the eye. You realize that you are the only one responsible for that person's comfort and security. You are their only hope. This sense of stewardship is the highest level of discipline. You aren't just managing money, you are managing a life. Looking back at my journey, I can see that discipline didn't come from a single moment of inspiration. It came from the hundreds of small, boring choices I made when no one was watching. It came from the Sunday mornings with my spreadsheet, the no-spend weekends, and the automated transfers that I never touched. It came from saying no to the world so I could say yes to myself. If you feel like you lack discipline right now, I want you to know that you can start building it today. Don't try to change your whole life overnight. Just pick one thing. Maybe it's the 3-second pause or the 30-day wait rule, and do it perfectly for 1 week, then add another. Discipline is a snowball. It starts small and slow, but once it gets moving, it becomes an unstoppable force. You have the power to change your trajectory. You have the power to build a life of freedom and options. It all starts with the very next dollar that enters your life. Treat it with respect and it will return the favor. I believe in you and I know you have the strength to master your money and your life. The path to freedom is open to everyone, but only the disciplined will actually walk it to the end. I'll be here to walk alongside you as you build your muscle and claim your future. Let's make today the day that everything changed. Let's start building that discipline right now, step by step, and watch as your world begins to transform before your very eyes. You've got the plan, you've got the tools, and now you have the discipline to see it through to the very end.